alluded to is in New Orleans during Katrina, the National Guard, the military was there taking law-abiding citizens' guns who were there protecting their property from the looters. And I was down there doing storm cleanup. The looters were out of control before the storm. After the storm, it just got worse. So would you allow in your county a foreign entity other than your sheriff's agency or police department to come in and take their people's guns away during what the government or somebody declares as a national emergency? That's the question he asked, and that's what we want to know, is will you allow that to happen in any of your counties?
Okay, let me repeat the question. The question was, if a situation happens and a foreign or different agency comes into our county and makes a gun ruling that there can't be any guns or the guns are taken up by the law-abiding citizens, would we as sheriffs allow that? And there again, I'm going to see if any of y'all got a good answer at this time. You know, I've never been faced with that. And
there's no law that allowed it to happen.
Okay, well see, that's where we've been. If it's a law that we've got to enforce, but you know, if an emergency comes and we do our homework before someone else comes in, we'll have, you know, the answer. But I could not tell you without knowing there wasn't a law. Okay?
So my question is, the Second Amendment is in place sometimes by that statement. The Second Amendment, you have the right to bear arms sometimes, and that's kind of what we're here about. We want to define the sometimes, because it's already happened in this country. We want to understand the sometimes.
Yeah, let me try this, because that was one of the questions I had written down.
Has been made.
Question. This is a Second Amendment meeting tonight. He's asking me a very valid question. Can you or a government entity or someone say we have an emergency? The emergency has to be defined, I realize that. To the point where you will let the Second Amendment be overridden and you're going to come and get my gun? What's an emergency that would allow you to come and get my gun? And I don't know of one. But they're saying, and I've heard this.
I was there.
I don't know, but I understood it happened, what the law was, whatever. But I don't think in the great state of North Carolina, I can't think of an emergency. You guys have to qualify that where you're going to come and get my gun. I think we can all explain to you. It might be hard to do. I can't think of an emergency. Yes, so then I go and that's right.
And you know, as I stated earlier, I don't know all the answers, and I can find that out through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, the National Sheriff's Association. But let me tell you what Sheriff Winters just said. He's from Eastern North Carolina. He went through Floyd, Fran, Bonnie, and several other things, and he never once thought about going to get anybody's gun. And I can tell you from the emergencies that I've been through, guns of any kind won't on my mind at that particular time. Protecting your property, your children, and the well-being of everybody came first. And we got to prioritize this stuff, people. But I will find an answer out where our Sheriff Association stand on that issue tomorrow morning.
Would your conscience allow you to collect guns even if it was the law that you had the right to do it? That's the question we want to know. Yeah. Would your conscience allow you to come get our guns even if it was the law? That's what we're here for.
Y'all swore no. Let me just say, you can what if anything, and I think that's where we're going with this. Like I said earlier, we have to abide by the Constitution of both the United States and the state of North Carolina. That's where I don't see it happening, and then the answer is, I don't know the good answer. I mean, like I say, you can what if anything. Your freedom of speech. You're not always protected on freedom of speech. As John told me today, he said if you're in a theater and you holler fire and there's no fire and everybody starts running out and somebody gets hurt, you're going to be liable. So that don't mean everything is in black and white. So, but folks, I don't see that happening. I know what you're saying. I don't understand. I didn't know that. I honestly didn't. But I can tell you this. I don't think there's a sheriff in North Carolina that wouldn't put up a fight unless there's some kind of emergency that you don't know about or I don't know about. And I mean, I can't sit here and tell you, I referee college basketball. I'm not going to satisfy all of it. And I taught college basketball referees. And if they ask you if he hits a string and all this stuff, you know, we can stand here tonight and what if everything. I don't know the clear answer to that. I've never heard of it. But as he said, we'll try to find out. But I don't see us going and picking up guns.
Sheriff Harrison,
Yes.
I'm a North Carolina concealed carry firearms instructor, so I do know some bit of the law. What we're referring to is back during Katrina, where the police department, not the National Guard, went home to home seizing people's firearms. That's a blatant violation of the Second Amendment rights for the people of Louisiana. Now, the question is, will they do that in North Carolina? Under current HB 650 that passed in December 2011, that provision was in there, Section E. I just had a class the other day. October 1st, that provision was removed, that the governor cannot enforce or enact a law to seize firearms during a state of emergency. So, that's been taken off the books October 1st, 2012. What we're trying to find out is if another Katrina event happened in this area and law enforcement was told to seize the firearms, even though it just happened in Louisiana, that was a clear violation of the Second Amendment rights. How could they do that then when it was a violation of the Second Amendment rights? And if that happened then, what would keep them from doing it again?
Right. Will you stand in the gap for us?
I honestly don't know. Let me, John, you want to?
I want to hear what you say.
I'm the sheriff's lawyer and I'm here to help you. All right. What you say is true. In North Carolina, the courts have overturned and done away with, apparently, I don't have the case in front of me though, the governor's right or local rights to declare a state of emergency and say you can't carry your weapons. That's in North Carolina. We don't speak for Louisiana. I don't know what the law is in Louisiana. We're all believers in the fundamental rights in the Second Amendment, are we? Yes. Okay. You got to know this though. I don't care how fundamental a right is. No right is absolute. I'm going to tell you, you believe it in your heart, you read it on a website and you believe it, but let me tell you what the law is. And we can debate it. The government can interfere with fundamental rights if it is necessary for a compelling governmental interest and they use the least restrictive means possible. Now that is the law. In public safety, that's the test from the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court is the final arbiter of the United States Constitution. Been that way since Marbury v. Madison. Look it up. We're talking about constitutional law. It is man's law. And the second... Listen, you asked me to explain, I'm going to try.
This is not what this is about. This is education law. I understand there's going to be some disagreement, but this is Mock's Creek House. We are not going to sit here and argue with our guests. Ask them questions, but do it Southern style. Okay, you understand what that means?
The Second Amendment is man-made law. It is not God's law. I wish it were.
No,
Okay?
it's natural law, not inalienable, unalienable, which means granted by your Creator. Unalienable, not inalienable.
Everything is granted by the Creator. Okay?
It's nature's law.
But law can be abridged by the proper authorities for necessary and compelling governmental interests. Any lawyer will tell you that. Any law professor will tell you that. And I understand if you don't agree.
We've done enough. I apologize, fellas, but really, we're getting a little bit out of hand. Ask your question. I understand emotion. I agree with some of what you're saying, but this is not, you're not going to argue in our house. You may not like what you hear, but at least let him say it.
Folks, as I said at the beginning, you're not going to agree with everything that we say. But we take an oath to do what the Constitution says, folks. And I couldn't go home tonight if I didn't treat everybody the same. And that's just the way my daddy raised me, and I'm going to continue to do that. I've made mistakes. A lot of you know. But I can tell you this, I will never tell you a lie. And if I don't know, I'm going to give you the answer. I don't know. So this gentleman's had his hand up there, we're jumping up and down. So